guys. Hi. I am here tonight just to do a short whisper ramble for you. I did a short 10-minute no talking random triggers, just because I don't do triggers a lot. I thought I would just throw it out there. But it's like a lot of mic brushing, scratching, mic brushing, this kind of thing. Got some nail tapping. Let me show them to you. Aren't they nice? That blue, isn't that blue nice? Isn't that nice? I got ink on my hands. Because I was literally let me move. I feel like I'm moving somebody's hair out of their face when I do this. I had a pen in my pocket and it exploded, and it happened right after I got my nails done. Anyway, so I do have some tips that I can tap, kind of. The other video is short, but it's like mic brushing, a little bit of this scratching, a little bit of glasses tapping. And I won't do it yet, but at the very end I did bare mic scratching, which no matter how gentle, I feel like I'm being is never gentle enough. So, back to the basics, back to the whispering. So, I had an idea today to start on my little project, my little playlist project, where I would do the series of things we don't talk about but should, or title it something like that, and just put it in a playlist. And I was going to start with mental health topic, like anxiety and severe anxiety, and or maybe just tied into the comparison to fear and stuff like that. I also wanted to do perimenopause, because I'm in my 40s, so people, I think so little, women talk about it so little, that I don't think that women even know it starts as early as 38, 39, the peri part, I mean. So I thought that some of those symptoms, because my best friend and I, and not my best friend, my cousin, and my other acquaintances that are of the same age and coworkers, were surprised by what symptoms are actually the ones that are difficult to manage, because you're only told about hot flashes. It's kind of insane and ridiculous. I think the generation that came before us was told not to talk about it, or it was cultured that way, like so many things are. So I want to do those two. And then I had some other ideas. Definitely we could talk about depression and SI and any other mental health topics that you can think of. We can talk about ADHD again and how underestimated it is in regards to how disruptive it can be to your life. I wanted to kind of talk about romantic relationships as its own topic, in the sense of truly accepting single. What does that look like? Because I think I have a good stance on that. And I thought maybe if you guys had any other thoughts, actually I think some people did give me some comments. And then I was listening to other people's channels, and I got this other idea to maybe throw in there just some interesting topics. So we can do another playlist. We can do one where it's stuff that we don't talk about that we should, that would help others. And in some cases it might not help them right now, but they can come back to the video later. And in some cases it will definitely help them now. So I thought that it would be nice to do this, things we don't talk about but should, as a playlist, or something you can go look at the ones I've made, and then also do maybe just special topics or interesting topics, so it's not just always me rambling about whatever, although I'll still do that too. But I wanted to do a topic on near-death experiences, because you absolutely know I'm into that kind of stuff. Deja vu was another thought. The bond with animals, how it can sometimes be deeper than with humans, but yet in this culture that we live in, we minimize it beyond measure. At least a lot of people minimize it. I was reading an article yesterday about how a majority of people that die in house fires is because they go back for their pets. Now, I understand what their point was, you want to try to get out, you want to try to survive, you want to get your family out, you don't want you gotta be able to live with yourself too. And it's like, if you can get your pet, get your pet. Obviously, you know, because it's like they have protocols, you know, and when it's too out of control, I feel like, I forget what they call it. Maybe like they take a defensive approach and they're not entering the building anymore. So you have to like balance that out, I guess. But I know I'm all over the place with my topics, but that was just one example of how pets are just, you know, they're just less than, but they don't feel less than when you bond with them, you know. The culture is always so interesting to me. Another topic I thought, because of recent news and stuff, and I'm not going to take a, you know, I might take a controversial stance. I don't know yet. I probably won't share. I mean, maybe I will share how I feel, because I share how I feel on this channel constantly. You know, I'm emotional. That's just what I do. But my purpose in picking the topic was more to illustrate how we are so conditioned, and we believe what we want to believe, and we see what we want to see, and that's all of us. So it's like, if I believe that, you know, in Florida, I don't live in Florida, but I used to work in Florida. I used to work in Orlando. So I'll pick on Florida. If I believe that everybody in Orlando drives like a maniac, I feel like that is what I tend to see. I'm not saying I create it, but it's kind of like, if anybody tries to challenge that thought, I have evidence. I can be like, let's go for a drive. Look at that. Look what that car just did right now, you know? And it's because I'm so committed to my belief that you could not show me evidence to the contrary. Even if you actually had it, I would reject it. Even if it was video evidence, I would reject it. And that's just one example. And so, like, it's amazing to me that people can all watch the same thing, like the same movie, the same video, however you want to, whatever you want to pick on. This topic could be specific to, you know, something that happened recently, which it is, but it also could be specific to a movie scene, you know, a love scene. Like, we see a couple break up in a love scene, and I see, you know, something so silly, like they didn't need to break up. They could have just talked it through. What are they doing? They both love each other or whatever. And then you see this sad, horrible breakup that had to happen. You know, I just think it's interesting that we are always coming from our own conditioned responses and from our own perceptions. And also, we see what we want to see. I mean, let's be realistic. That's also totally true, right? So you have to have things that are completely obvious. Like right now, you can see that I'm wearing these glasses. There is nobody that's going to watch this video. Nobody on the planet, educated, uneducated, doesn't matter what your beliefs are, what your family status is, what your life has been like, is going to say that I'm not wearing glasses in this video, because it's obvious. Like, you can't deny that I'm wearing glasses in this video. However, what you can do is say, they look kind of large on her face, it's probably AI. So even the fact that I think it's obvious that I'm wearing these glasses in this video, that's also not even obvious. So it just kind of challenged me when I saw that. When it really became clear to me, I was like, whoa, oh my goodness, that's kind of frightening and interesting, I suppose. So we'll probably just call this a random Whisper Ramble. I was sick last week, and I was I had COVID again. I didn't know it though. I didn't even honestly, I did not even expect it to be that. Wasn't even gonna go to I wasn't even gonna go to urgent care, okay? But I was so sick on Saturday. So like Saturday was when I was so sick, and I think Saturday night, I thought it might be the start of the flu because of how much pressure I felt in my chest and how miserable. And then Sunday, it just became this complete extreme exhaustion and headache and just misery where you kind of lay in bed and whine. But the good part about that is that you can lay in bed and you can actually rest because you don't care about anything else. You can't overthink anything. If somebody says, hey, did you do your budget? Or hey, did you take your trash out? You do not care because you're like, no, I'm laying here. Period. But anyway, that's what it ended up being. So 5 days of symptoms, and then you can return to like it was in my chest, but then it was very quickly, it seems, resolved. But through last week off, like I didn't work, and the days just melted into one another. I did watch Runaway, the new Harlan Coben mystery on Netflix. It was enjoyable to watch. All of his stuff is, because it's like so intense, right? The plots are so intense. I think that's the refrigerator that just came on. And then I started the night of a criminal drama about a murder on HBO. And it's kind of heavy, and I don't know, I had to stop in the middle just because I felt like I needed a different pace or something. It's good though, it's well done. I watched the new episode of High Potential. I plan on watching the new episode of The Pit. But if you have any recommendations, please send them my way. I literally wanted recommendations so bad when I was sick that I got on the night shift group that I belong to. And there's like so many members, and I was just like, can anybody recommend a bunch of shows for me, please? And people did. They really showed up. There was like a bunch of recommendations. That's actually where I found The Night of. So that was kind of cool. Let's see what else is there to chat about. I had a hard time this morning because I went and got my work schedule, and I looked at shifts I might want, and I did some business stuff for work on the computer. And then I went to an outside mall, if you will. And I got like brunch, and I had some iced cold brew and looked at my books, and I tried to make a to-do list, but it was just overwhelming because I'm supposed to move. I'm supposed to move at the end of January. At the end of January. So the to-do list is endless and overwhelming, and it's full of lots of costs. So I was like, oh, and it's not even just the cost, it's the tedious nature of it all. I gotta do this before I can do that. I have to get the motivation to deal with this before I can deal with that. Oh wait, I also have to change my address. Oh wait, I also have to do this. I also have to do that. And I should be a pro, and when it all kicks in, the pro will come out of me because I have moved 20,000 times in my adult life. So none of this should be difficult, but it is tricky because I'm moving into like a situation where someone else is already there. I mean, ultimately the plan is for me to buy this house, but it's like a rent to own, if you will, with my family member. So there's like a little bit more consideration, but also like there's that good part too, because you have a lot of it worked out already. But getting out of the apartment is emotional because I've made it a home, I've made it sacred, I've made it safe, and my goodness, do those things matter to me. And I can tell they matter more to me than I feel like the average person, because when I try to share it, I don't think people get it. Like, I attach myself to places, like, that's my safe place, I want to go home, you know? And it's like, that could be for any reason. I could be feeling sick, I could be overworked, I just want to go home, and then all of a sudden everything's better. But I know that you make it home, right? I mean, no specific place is doing that for you. When I first moved in here, it was just an empty place, and I put my furniture in, and that was that, right? I'm the one that established that it was safe, and it was loving, and it was home. I did that, and I've done that before, and I can do that again. So hopefully anxiety and crazy will not take over. Back to the perimenopause topic. But now I really hope I can do this without an overabundance of sad or negative or anxious emotions, because I just tend to get very anxious, and I with this much change, even though you would think by now it would not be that surprising. Like, just to give you a little taste of what I'm talking about, like years ago when I was young, I was living in a house that was owned by someone else that I was with, that I was like friends with and roommate with, and that I loved very, very much. My just the most special kindred spirit person ever, and that can be a whole separate story time sometime, okay? But back to this. He unexpectedly got sick and unexpectedly became permanently so that was about to happen. And as that before that was able to happen, he did pass away, and here I am living in his house, and I'm young and naive. And one of the things is that, like, he was behind. He had to go to court because of this disability thing to get an extension on his mortgage. And I think back then I was paying like BGE or something, you know, because this is in my 20s. And back then, I don't know, people now are like becoming big shot nurses and stuff in their early 20s. That was not me, and my, like, everyone around me when I was that age was not doing that. You know, I worked in the lab. Nobody was making any big money in their early 20s. At least I wasn't. So, and I've had, you know, these two kind of separate careers. So, anyway, back to the story. I had my pets there. I had a lot of mental health struggles at that time in my life to deal with, as well as his death and the grief, and the fact that I was kind of grieving completely alone, which was really not something I recommend or wish on anyone. So people were drawing back from me because of how I was, you know. I mean, I wasn't pleasant to be around, but they couldn't grieve with me, do you know what I mean? So anyway, maybe that should be a whole other story time if you want something really, like, sad and awful. Sorry. But anyway, it was so stressful because that sense of safety, that sense of home, that sense of, like, this is where I belong, was threatened. Quite literally threatened. Like, not threatened, like, in my imagination, threatened in real life, you know? So I was, like, putting notes on the door, like, you know, because I didn't know if when the bank or whatever, whoever was going to come, because at this point, obviously, he's not paying it. I didn't even have their contact information to try to pay it. Wouldn't even really have thought of that with all the extreme, like, pain I was in and trying to go back to work and being postpartum, which is a whole other story time, by the way. So let me know if you want that one too. Again, another struggle that, you know what, let's add that to the list of things that people don't talk about but should, is the postpartum depression, or it can go in the mental health category. I will say, you know, my daughter's 20, almost 21, you know, 20 and a half. It is talked about way more, respected, treated way more now. Back then in 2005, it was just like if you said you had ADHD, MC4, they'd be like, it was just nothing. It was like, postpartum depression, what's that? There was no real, like, safety place to go to say that that's what you thought was happening. And I'm glad that now there kind of is more so. Anyway, I have very real reasons to be anxious about living the situation. And they are valid, and it started at a very young age. You know, I left home at 17. I just feel like once I make a place safe and sacred, it becomes hard to leave. But I want to leave. I chose to do this. It's a benefit to me. I'm grateful. Got immense levels of gratitude, and I think recently I've had to learn, because I can tell other people may not see it this way either because of their comments to me, but, like, I had to learn that you can be both scared and excited. You can be both regretful and grateful. Those things can coexist at the same time. And I'm giving myself grace because I don't think I realized that before, you know? It was like, why am I not grateful? This is such a great opportunity. Why am I upset? Why am I feeling scared? Why is my anxiety so triggered? You know, why do I need every variable to be double checked? Why do I need to keep asking this question? But a lot of it stems from the history, and anxiety loves that because it can tell you that the worst case scenario can absolutely happen, you know? And it's like, I think I made a comment like, can you imagine renting from someone you love and something happens to them? I'm not talking about, you know, they actually, like, you know what happened to my person, but, like, they're in the hospital, or they're unable to, like, you're unable to, I guess, make sure their stuff is being paid, or whatever would cause the practical concern. That does not negate the fact that you are devastated by whatever is happening to them, and that grief is swallowing you up. Because one of the things I've learned about extreme grief, at least for me, is the practical becomes something I have to deal with, because I'm overwhelmed, and if I don't, almost like the practical comes to the forefront, because you're going to end up being devastated, in severe grief, and out on the darn street if you don't pay attention to that. So I think, maybe it could seem offensive that you're like, well, I only care about me renting if something happens to you, but that isn't what I'm ever saying. And I clarified it with that person, but I feel like it's fair for me to be afraid because it's already happened to me, and I don't expect anything to happen to any of these people. That's not at all what I'm saying. What I'm saying is the anxiety has like a reference point, and so it becomes so much more powerful than when it's just anxiety making stuff up to bother you and torture you. Like when your thoughts just want to go wild to keep you up. This is unfortunately harder for me to challenge because it has a reference point, and other reference points too that I have to let go of. But I do believe that we're always being led in the best direction. It may not always feel like the best direction, and I've also come to see that like your life could look like you're about to get married in Bermuda and go live on an island, right? And the whole world could be clapping, but you don't know if you're going to end up sitting there every morning feeling empty, lonely, isolated, depressed, and yet it looks so good on paper, because my life's been there too. I mean, not Bermuda, but like where it looks good on paper, but I am just falling apart on the inside. Or you could have a life where it looks like, is this really how it was supposed to go? It seems like there's so many hurdles for something that is so wonderful and so I'm so grateful for. It seems like there's so many uphill battles and things that I still want that I don't, seem to have, kind of a thing out of life. And then I think, but that could be exactly where you find the peace and the stillness and the joy. It doesn't matter what looks good on paper. It matters how you feel inside. And that's why I was telling you about the restlessness and the overthinking, because that can be there, even if you have $10 million. I mean, imagine if you had $10 million, you're doing quite a bit of overthinking, especially after you acclimate to it and it becomes normal to be rich. Then it's not as exciting, right? And it's just your norm. So then your thoughts or your patterns or your mental health struggles, they all just come right back. And that's my theory on that, I don't know if this is all making sense. I've been a little mush brain today because I didn't sleep a whole lot last night, and I've been, this whole week I've been like laying around not doing much, but it just kind of felt like 2 days instead of 5 or 6. So I don't know if it makes sense, but because I made the short trigger assortment video, and because I'm doing this weird, like ramble, it's kind of a life update. Hey guys, I'm moving, which is awesome. I would like to, start with it. Maybe the next videos I will do will be like that, things we don't talk about but should, and like an interesting topic. So those will be the next 2 that I work on, but I like to have poster board for that because I like to write myself notes so that I can read them and reference them and make it more thorough, and maybe even have some evidence-based literature in there, because you can't go wrong with evidence-based, right? And of course you'll have my thoughts and my opinions thrown in there and my disclaimers and all that. The cats are playing in the kitchen, so I probably should wrap it up because I don't know what he's gotten into, but I just heard something. And then I have a discussion post that I'm supposed to do, but I'll tell you, all I want to do right now is make myself a snack and put on a show that I actually want to watch. That's been the thing lately. I have all these options, but I just will not lock in and pick something and enjoy it. I watched a 2020 episode on a sad true crime case last night that I locked into because it was sad and it was real. And I told you about Runaway. Maybe the first episode of The Pit, since I haven't seen that, maybe that's, but then again, it's January 10th. So maybe that's not available till tomorrow. I'll see, I'll look. Either way, if you have any recommendations on that, let me know, because I am always taking those recommendations. And then as for the triggers, I like to do whispering. The channel is my hobby, that's really all it is. So I'll try other stuff because I like sound, and I like when I first got into ASMR, it was all about the whispering and the talking and the voice, and it was about tapping on certain scratching, but I didn't participate in some of them. I just like to listen to them. And if you look at my playlists, it is 98% whisper, whether it's whispering a story or a true crime or just rambling, or I mean, sometimes I even listen to some creators that talk about things that I don't necessarily like subscribe to, believe in, or topics that I wouldn't normally care about, but I just love their whisper voice, and their ASMR is so good. I like mic brushing and I like mic scratching. It's never been anything that I want to do myself that much, but I will if anyone likes it, or if anybody wants me to do the crinkly toy again. So in the other video I did mic brushing / scratching with the crinkly toy, the glasses tapping, and a little bit of bare mic scratching, which may be too harsh. It's hard to tell, but I guess we'll see. Alright, thank you so much for being here, and I hope you're having a good start to your 2026. I know there's been a lot of heaviness in the news in the world, and that is a whole other topic that I can't go there right now. But I will say, I wish you peace and comfort and all that stuff. That joy does not have to stop because the Christmas season, the holiday season is over. Joy does not have to stop. And a funny little thing about that, I had a cute joy rug outside the apartment door where it's like, it says the word joy and it's beautiful. It's like decorated in candy cane. And I saw it today and was like, oh, the joy is gone. It's January. There's no joy in January. And I flipped it upside down because I decided that we're not allowed to have a joy rug because Christmas is over. And I get it. It is a Christmas themed festive rug, but we are absolutely allowed. Not even allowed. We just are joy, right? I mean, ultimately we are love. We are joy. We just have to access it, I guess. I'm no better. I can't access it. I'm all restless today. But I know it's there. I definitely know it's there. Alright, have a great evening, and let me know what you think of anything I was saying. And then hopefully I'll try tomorrow or Sunday to film the things we should talk about more that we don't, and maybe a special topic, whichever one I feel like researching first. Okay, and let me know if I should do trigger words, because that was something else I didn't really want to do per se. I wanted to try a little bit of triggers that I like to listen to, and I thought about doing that as well. So anyway, let me know. Alright, good night. Okay, good night. Check out these blue nails again. Hold on. I can't really, actually I can still tap.